Hello and good evening, everyone, and welcome to
The
Truth
truth
Behind
behind
the
the
Truth.
truth.
Excited Tuesday evening, joining us here on your favorite Tuesday evening broadcast. Okay, sharing the world, telling the world what's going on, and all of the good stuff, and in between. We hope that everybody had a fantastic week so far, and everything is excitingly going on with you. I know it is with us. So, but we're glad that you guys are here with us this evening, and it should be a great show tonight. Our counterpart Buddy is having a little technical difficulty, but he'll be on very shortly here. But we're going to go ahead and get started because I know you guys have been waiting. They've been waiting. All right, we've got a lot to talk about today. Not so much from a video perspective. We have a few videos, but there's a lot to talk about in terms of the news and things like that. We got about 3 months that we're going to elaborate on. Typically, on the spiritual side of things, that we'll bring some things. But reason why we do a lot of spiritual videos, things like that, because we really want to help you just find yourself within yourself, And if we don't tell you, you're not gonna get it somewhere else, at the end of the day. So those of you that celebrate St. Patty's Day, I do have a little video for you that will clearly explain how St. Patty's came about, the truth behind St. Patty's. Okay, so as we are the truth behind the truth, want to make sure that you have a clear understanding on how that works, and about that. But first, we're going to just dive into Women's History Month real fast here, and celebrates an icon far as we're concerned. She had been in the public, 15, 20 years, and she just transitioned yesterday, unfortunately, due to heart failure. But we did, and it was kind of like, who we're going to celebrate this month, at this point in Women's History Month. And I said, Kiki Shepard is a good person to do that with, So, we're taking a moment to celebrate how this beautiful woman of color was such an icon for, young and mature African-American women. She was a model. Okay, and she was best known in later years, of course, from Showtime at the Apollo.
Was she a dancer?
Yeah, she was a dancer at one time as well, and she got that gig at was it 15 years ago at Showtime at the Apollo, and maintained it. And everybody looked at Showtime at the Apollo because Kiki Shepard was there. So sorry to unfortunately see her transition, but she was 72. Didn't look like it. I think these are pretty recent pictures of her. Not the other one, but this one I think is a pretty recent picture of her. So she looked good for 72. She really did. But she served well, and I do hope that some of our young ladies get inspired. By her, and just figure out a way to live their truth out to her and not being a stripper on a pole.
Oh well.
But that's a whole nother conversation for another time. Okay, but that, and what, and this see before we wrap for our season, I want to explore that. I want to explore the decisions of how unfortunately women fall into the categories of pole dancing.
Well, not only women, but it's also that's more of a man's situation too, as well. It's more. I would say it's an art form, but I see what you're trying to get with it.
From what it's become,
what it's become because of the culture of the strip club and all that stuff. But it's just it's a decision that some people feel like that's who they are, what they own. I mean, I don't judge as long as I tell people all the time, I don't judge people. If you're not killing or stealing anything, killing people or stealing, then there is nothing here for me to judge. I know people will make their money the best way they know how to make their money. I'm even trying to make money myself, not stripping, but just doing what I can to survive. But it is what it is. Pole dancing is pole dancing. It's like burlesque. Burlesque was an art form as well,
Yeah, this is true. I just think that my thing that I have, or the issue I slightly have with it, is that it has been filtered in and becoming a part of a music form, and typically of the hip hop community. And
it was more of it in the rock and roll sense too, in the 90s and 80s.
Well, not true. We did have video vixens. Oh, let me get Kiki off here. We still talking about Kiki. We did have video vixens, of course. And actually I used to work with a video vixen. And she was doing everything to be on somebody's video. She was getting her breasts lifted up and put in between and everything else, trying to make it happen.
Yeah,
you know, and in that conversation, it's really hard to not to sound judgmental, about it. And it is. I mean, I know there are women have great families on being that type of environment. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, so it really is hard not to be, create a judgmental point. I don't know. I think we just need to leave it alone. I need to leave it alone because I don't want to cross over and make people say, "Oh, you're being judgmental. You shouldn't be saying it that way." Well,
I just don't see nothing wrong if you're doing it in the right way, in the right sense. I mean, people are going to do what people are going to do what they want to do. At the end of the day, we're all human beings. We all make choices. Either it's good or it's bad.
Right.
But it's just how you do it. It's how you carry yourself in whatever industry that you're working in. Because you could be working in an office job and people doing all types of dumb and crazy stuff. And it's just the fact that at the end of the day, it's the choices that you make. And I think anybody who does that, hopefully they carry themselves in a very safe and and classy way.
Right.
But you have to be careful in that atmosphere because people will take advantage.
Right.
Of the fact that you are giving them entertainment in a sense that you are appealing to the sexual desire of what they deem as what they would want.
Right.
And people will take advantage.
Yeah.
But you just have to be careful. You just have to.
Right.
It's not a very safe atmosphere. It's not a very safe industry. But I don't judge people who have to make their money because I think it's better than them going out there robbing and stealing and killing. I mean, either way, it's just better than doing that.
Right.
That's how I feel about the situation.
No, I completely understand what you're saying there. I mean, it does make sense. In and of itself, I guess. It just I don't know. I have my collective opinion about it.
But you just want it off of TV, basically. You don't want it to be seen you just want. I know your thing is that you would rather for it to not be a very mainstream thing for us to have to watch.
Well, okay. Even in that, I mean, even if it's just a thing that in that environment, okay, let's say that. But the problem I have with it is that it's become the norm. And then I always look at the younger girls that are coming along and having granddaughters. Not saying they're going to get involved, but it spilled over to all of this hip hop, MC women type of scenario, and it all leads back to that same behavior. And so I just have a problem with it. I mean, at the end of the day, when it comes down to that, as I'll keep talking, I think Charles should get in here. He's coming on.
Well, but actually, we're talking about, the lady who had passed. Kiki, Shepherd. Spike Lee's father passed.
Oh, no, really?
When? He died, I don't know if he died today, but I do know that they had posted somewhere on my social media account, on Facebook, exactly. He had died at 94.
Right.
I don't know that he might have died today or yesterday.
Right.
But he died and somebody else had passed away too. I forget who passed. But on that though, Spike Lee's father had passed.
Wow. I was sending love and hugs to Spike Lee for the transition of his dad. One of my dear buddies, matter of fact, it's unfortunate. A lot of people passed. He texted me today. His middle sister next to him passed today. So I sent him love and sent him a text and I called him after the show tonight. So it's just a lot of transitioning going on. And I think that a lot of it that when people get that opportunity to go, they ain't staying. They like, okay, I'm out,
Wait a minute, I might be wrong. Okay, I might be wrong. Okay. I'm wrong. I'm sorry, y'all. He died in 2023. Somebody just posted on my reposted on my Facebook. Yeah. So he's been sorry that.
Okay.
Yeah, 2023.
Well, we care. I don't know what's true behind true, but we do make it.
Yeah, that's why I went ahead and look because somebody also posted something about Catherine Jackson too.
Right, some weeks ago.
And I don't like, that's the one thing I don't understand about social media or the internet. You just can't go along to get along with what they're providing because it's not factual. No. That's why I was like, let me check and make sure because it's not adding up because we would have heard more about it, than Kiki Shepherd.
Right.
They're not talking about that, about her in the nightly news. So like I said, I was like, let me go and check and make sure that my corrections are on point.
That's okay. It's an easy
How you doing, Charles? You doing okay?
Hanging in there, man. I couldn't get my computer to act right.
That's okay. We figured out. Let's go ahead and we get you in.
But you know, the phones, they connected to laptops now. So when my phone on, it does what it want to do with my laptop. And I hate that. That's why I didn't like Apple, because they do that. Now the Androids are doing it. I'm like, man, I hate that crap. Anyway, I got it back.
Well, we're glad to have you. We're glad you're here. You made it. But anyway, so glad you're right. Everything in Atlanta going okay?
Mm-hmm. Hey, until midterms they are. They got a few elections coming up here soon.
I know that's right. We've got a great video that we're going to play a little bit here about the distinctive points, and I posted it on my Facebook page, and it got over 3K, almost 4K. You know, in terms of these responses, and then how it really kind of shows the divide of where people are in terms of this political platform. You know, I mean, it really does. But we'll talk about that in a minute. So today is St. Patrick's Day for those that celebrate it. Okay, you know, I know it's not a big favorite among Black people because of what Irish people had did. You know, they for history's sake, and I know you know this. They were the slave owners, not the owners, but the overseers. You know, they were overseers. They were specifically overseers doing slavery. And I was like, wow. And I think that they did that because they were considered immigrants as well, and they were not liked when they got here. So they took on that role as to try to give them some notoriety in the country that they weren't even liked. You know, that's a whole nother historical.
Well, but in Europe they were more of the underdog. You know, right. And the saddest thing about it is once of any type of Caucasian blood has came over off those ships into these United States,
right.
They were not considered this. You know, they had their heritage, but see, the construct of whiteness has always overpowered,
right?
What the differences and traditions and culture of European. How are we looking, Charles? Are we good?
You frozen.
Oh, Charles, are we good?
Now you're back. You were frozen at first.
Can you hear us?
Yeah.
Can you hear us? Now let me go back and repeat what I said. With that being said, what's talking about the Irish? I always, with the construct of whiteness in this country, you could come over here and be Russian. You could be Russian, German, Swedish, Danish, English, Scottish, Irish. But with that white colored skin, it didn't matter. As long as you were the look of a Caucasian person, it did not matter. The only thing that I would say over in this country, color and it's still at times still the situation. And they did oversee us. Most Irish people, most Irish blood people did go down south because of the fact of more opportunity to own land, and also probably opportunity to own people as well. They oversaw us. And that's because of the fact that they looked and appeared to be what we weren't. Well, we wasn't. We weren't white. So they looked over these darkies, these slaves who were, so it's so funny. And I hate to take a swipe at this. You know, there are some ignorant ass people in this country who do not know the difference between indentured slavery and chattel slavery. Charles, do you know the difference between indentured slavery versus chattel slavery?
Yeah. Oops, what I do now? It's the difference is indentured slaves are basically raised in a house as family, and they're owed a debt, so to speak, to the family. Like butlers, even when they were white folks, who were butlers and made their families to the king and the queen. Those are indentured servants. They don't call them slaves, but they're indentured servants. They owe a debt, or they position themselves to always be these people's servants due to loyalty or some type of contract. But either way it go, they can't come and go, but they choose to stay.
And they're not owned for life. and
No,
their children and descendants are not owned for life. That was the difference between chattel slavery and indentured slavery. And you have ignorant Americans who would like to bring up the fact that y'all, as African Americans, or Black Americans, like to bring up slavery. Why y'all always bringing up slavery? Why y'all always bringing this shit up? It wasn't a to do, but it was a to do basically because it was what built this nation. And the sad thing about people is people would like to throw that into the water and let it just flow downhill. But but in honesty, free labor has always been what kept this country going. And I hate to say this, but yeah, our situation was very important for the economy. But going back to what we were talking about, and I brought that up for the simple fact that most Europeans when they came to this country, some of them were indentured slaves because they were having to owe back a debt back in Europe. But then on top of that, they at least in the end of the day, the debt was paid and they were free. We were never free. So that I would say with the Irish, that has always been a situation with that compared to other people's situations.
I want to thank who's it, Don Barnes for tuning in tonight, and Natalie, our dear sister Natalie. But Natalie, go ahead,
go ahead, Natalie. But we're going to read your comment because they weren't as educated as the other Europeans. They were one step away from being slaves themselves. True. That's and that was why I brought up that the indentured. What's the difference between indentured slaves as slavery as well as chattel slavery? And that's where I feel like as certain dumb Americans who would like to be educated, educate me with all of this information, with all of this that we pick up every day to go do what we do, listen to music, go work out with, and all this other stuff. You can't even pick up the phone to educate yourself, and that in itself is very telling of the ignorance of the willful ignorance,
that's true,
of a set of people who do not care. And when you say educate me on racism, I feel like at the end of the day you are just dog whistling, or you are making a coded language to say, well, at the end of the day, I just don't give a damn. I just want you to give me your opinion, because I'm not going to be educated. I'm keeping on. I'm going to hold you. Is that of my birth right to be ignorant and to be on top of that, to be what you can't tell me. Are we good? We back, Charles?
Okay, now you are. You was blanking in and out for a minute. Yeah, you're back now.
As long as we back, they playing with that.
Anytime, yeah, I'm right. Anytime we get to a place of deep education, it seems like Big Papa looking over the iPad these days. But thank you for that historical standpoint about that. Natalie, thank you for sharing. Thank you for tuning in.
Are we good?
Good? Okay, now you are. Man, it keeps blinking in and out. Yeah, I see your hand now.
Okay.
So, I know. I don't know why that is tonight.
It's the Verizon, whatever you want to call it. Who cares?
I know, right? So anyway, as we are in the Irish mode, this is a very, very powerful, and she's a very, very good historian and biblical historian and all this stuff. But I love the way she articulates things. She's on Instagram. But I saw this the other day, and I said, this is an appropriate time to talk about this because most people don't know about the true essence of the celebration, or what became the celebration of St. Patrick's Day. But here we go.
Oh, hey, then St. Patrick's Day is coming up. Let's talk about it. I grew up thinking St. Patrick's Day was about drinking green beer, wearing green so you don't get pinched, and celebrating Irish culture. Then I found out what it actually is. St. Patrick's Day is a celebration of Christianity's domination over paganism in Ireland. That's what we're all out here celebrating in little green hats? The legend says that St. Patrick drove all the snakes out of Ireland while converting it to Christianity in the 400s. Okay, except Ireland never had snakes. Not one, ever. No fossils, no evidence. Snakes were literally never native to Ireland. So what exactly did he drive out if the snakes were a metaphor? The snakes were the Druids. the most respected people in all of Irish society. They were the teachers, the healers, the astronomers, philosophers, judges, the keepers of earth-based wisdom that had been alive in Ireland for thousands of years. Women held that authority too, by the way. There was no boys-only club. And when your mission is to take over an entire belief system, you can't just say, hey, we have a new religion, please switch. You have to make the old one look dark, dangerous, evil. You turn the wise ones into the villains, and you write that story down in history. That's how Patrick became the hero. The Druids became the snakes, but that version gets written 200 years after Patrick died. Why? Because that's the story the church needed people to believe. It's not a miracle story. It's a PR campaign. And they didn't stop there. They renamed the sacred wells after saints, built churches right on top of ancient gathering places, took every earth-based celebration and put new meaning to it. Ostara became Easter, Samhain became All Saints' Day. Every earth-based tradition the people honored was absorbed into the new religion and handed to a man and institution. That's a pattern. I did a whole deep dive on all of it over on Patreon. Who the Druids really were, Irish culture before Christianity, how this takeover actually happened, and why this is not just an Irish story. It's the story of how earth-based wisdom gets erased through propaganda, and how we're still living inside the version they wrote. Super interesting.
Why you keep messing with it? Your mic's not on. Your mic's not on. And you're frozen.
Okay. Isn't that something?
Okay.
I mean, you know, how if you don't do your history research, if you don't take the time and you accept something that's being thrown at you, and how many hundreds of this holiday, whatever you want to call it, has been thrown at us in the wrong manner. How many people didn't even knew that? You know,
at least you took up the gumption to want to be educated and you did research, even though, you know, that's the one thing that I think if you're curious, and everybody should have a knack for curiosity. We should all be wanting to know, why are we having to celebrate? Why are we having to do this type of situation in order to do that situation? Right. I mean, that should be human, something that's natural to society or to human nature. You know, do you agree, Charles?
Yep, it should. It should. But you know, that's like the tale of Paul Revere. Paul Revere didn't ride through the town singing "The British Are Coming." It was another guy, but his name didn't fit the storyline, and it wasn't as glamorous or as or fit as well as Paul Revere did. His things named Honeywinkle or some stuff. And it's like, that's not as sexy as Paul Revere. Paul Revere barely wrote a couple of hours, and then he shut down and went on home. Got drunk, whatever. But the actual guy who wrote through, and a black guy did it. A black guy and another guy wrote through town, warning the Americans or just people that the British were coming. So it's how the narrative fits is what they do. What fits our narrative? Just like you said, a lot of the Bible stories. I mean, the guy said something today that really got me. He said, if God made Eve, why did he need Mary to make Jesus? He could have just made Jesus, same way he made Adam.
Repeat again.
Go back, Charles, and repeat that with the Bible.
Yeah, you froze on that.
Yeah, you froze up a little bit.
I said, they said that if God made Adam and Eve, why did he need Mary to make Jesus? He could have just made Jesus and put him down there or whatever. He didn't have to go through a vessel in order to get a baby here. So when you listen to the propaganda, and Christmas 25th of December is not really the birth of Christ. It's just whatever fits my narrative at the time.
Good opposite point. I mean, good. You know,
you went through a vessel.
Oh, right. I get you. And, you know, it's funny you bring this up because there's a video that we're going to play a little bit later. Well, we're actually going right on into it, you know, at the end of the day. There are two of them that when people get information, is it to control or is it to help people?
It's to control.
You know, and this one guy's elaborated about pastors going through the cemetery.
What's all this?
But, you know, what are they going to actually bring? So unparalleled of what life should be, you know what I mean? But here's the great thing about all of this is that I love the fact that there is a seek among humanity. You know, and people are digging in. Now, some of their explanations on Instagram, the younger crowd, they get a little graphic with what they're but they're going in and telling the truth behind the truth. You know, at the end of the day, and you know, where did we get to the point? And I know it's the pilgrim mentality of the pilgrim that even color metaphors were inappropriate. You know what I mean? And how color metaphors became so inappropriately to be said because but it became a pilgrim mentality because it wasn't aligning what they thought that a Christian should say. You know, but who says that what a Christian should say? You know,
exactly.
I would, you know, what I'm doing Bible study, you know that. I mean, I make it like really real, really down, and really gritty. Because I'm gonna tell you that the greatest one everybody like to use is the children of Israel in the wilderness. All right. You can't tell me that them black women out there in that wilderness was not fussing and calling each other all kind of names. Okay, and they believe me, they were not walking in this halo of hoping and opportunity. They were complaining. All right, and we forget that they had 3 wars that they had to do before they got close to the promised land. And you tell me they're gonna be able to do with a good attitude? No, I don't think so. But anyway, let's go on and listen to this brother real quick here and his hypothesis about preachers.
All pastors that go to seminary face a similar issue. They learn how the Bible came to be, or what we call the Bible. They learn about the books that were left out. They learn about the agreements to allow whatever books to be permitted. They learn that the books were full of, or the writings full of allegory, metaphor, similes, but they know that it's not actually true. So they have a choice to make upon attending and leaving. And here's the choice. Will I go back to my congregation and tell them the truth that this book is not a spiritual book at all? There's nothing magical about it, and it's not true, and it's not history at all. Do I tell them the truth, or do I think about what I could possibly lose? All that money, prestige, power, influence. Nah. To God be the glory. Hey, everybody. Amen. Amen. Pass the offering plate. Pass the Bible. More truth for that ass.
Power to the people.
Power to the people. Go ahead, man.
But you know, I just found out this past week that there are 2 types of Christians: those that are spirit-led and those who are just indoctrinated.
Good.
Those who, you know, and the ones that are indoctrinated is the one who can quote Bible verses and tell you all about the goodness of Jesus, but just don't have the love of Jesus.
Wow.
They just don't. The love is not there. It was never there. It's all based on power, politics, and control. Well, you have a spirit-led, those who believe in doing the work out there in the community, providing food, providing clothes, providing a helping hand, providing opportunities, jobs. You know, and that's the one thing that the church, I ain't trying to say, well, no. A hit dog will holler. And you know, we have a lot of hit dogs when we are always on this subject matter. If you're one of those hit dogs, you might be the indoctrinated one. But I believe that a lot of churches have lost the willfulness to just get out and do what is the work. The work is to help. The work is to assist. The work is to try to guide people, not hinder people, not control people, not make people feel bad because they don't look the aesthetic or what you think a Christian should look. I love singer Fantasia because she found one of the only R&B acts who who do praise and worship, who keeps praise and worships in her concert. But boy, do the indoctrinated Christians, they come out in the comment section. Why don't she wear proper clothing when she prays and worship? Why does it even matter when it's coming from the right place? That's the problem. You can't win when people want to control what you are wearing and what you are doing. That is why people have left religion and put things on, I call it religion that is more of a corporate sense than of being a spirit-led sense. or as I would say now, an indoctrinated sense.
Right.
The fact that you cannot have on certain clothing, but still you can't even worship God in shorts and whatever,
Right.
because you might take the eyes and
my vision, or
my
your
vision away from what it is that I'm trying to worship. Why your eyes are and your heart is in that sense of thinking when you're supposed to be worshiping God? You are the problem, not the person that's doing what she or he is doing.
Right.
You need to go get some help.
Right.
But that's why a lot of people, walk away.
So go ahead, Charles.
No, I'm listening. I'm taking in and learning something tonight.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I learned that too. I learned that there's an indoctrinated Christian force and there's a spirit-led Christian force.
Mm-hmm.
And you can tell those who get hit in these, they'll tell us, they'll call us, they'll tell us that y'all, I felt offended. And at the end of the day, I keep telling myself, well, why were you offended? It's like almost with white folks. Well, I don't think if you know who you are,
right,
and we're talking about racist, ignorant people, and know that's not who you are, why are you crying?
Right.
Because that lets me know that your slip is showing.
Right. Ooh, I like that one.
Your slip is showing. Something's telling me that you do dibble and dabble, or of people who dibble dabble in racist and ignorant situations. The fact that nothing affects me when people talk about the gay community. Right. I know people who say, well, gay people are weak. They don't know no better. They're sex oriented. They all this. And I'm like saying to myself, well, I'm not these things, so I don't feel no ways tired about this.
Right.
It's just not. It's not my fight. Right. Those who feel some type of way about this, that's their fight. Right. Because I don't have to worry about this stuff. I know who I am. Right. I know who I am as a whole total person. You ain't got to tell me who I am, and I'll stand firm. Right. I mean, you ain't got to call me anything but my name. My name is Dallin Washington. There you go.
Absolutely.
I'm done.
Good evening, Miss Hamilton. Hey, mommy.
Hey, Mom.
But perpetuating, this cycle it's so devastating at times, because if you do spend any time on social media, and I do encourage you to spend time on social media, because you can learn things. You really can learn things. And number one is where people's perspective on life comes from, and whether they are. Like they said on the View today, you shouldn't call people stupid and idiotic and all this type of stuff. I understand that, because calling somebody stupid is probably the lowest form of something that you could ever call anybody, because that indicates that they don't know anything at all. But it does make you, I'll be honest, it make you feel good when they do something totally ridiculous. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day. So I took that today and I said, you know what, I've got to find a way to not use that word, over someone else's life. The better choice is that they're just highly uneducated.
They're just willfully ignorant.
Well, yeah, willfully ignorant or highly uneducated, in that particular point. But it's something about that word, it just does something ingratiating in a lot of people that it does, because unfortunately, Black people were called that, and then you've had your mentally challenged individuals that were called that, and it really has just had a very long despairing thing over people's lives.
The N-word that's another way. I always felt the N-word itself was another way of calling a whole group of people ignorant.
Yeah,
keeping them. That's what I always felt the N-word was.
Right. Well,
I mean, it's a disparaging type of word to say that y'all you're less than, but not only are you less than, but you're just ignorant.
Right.
And that's how I always felt that word came across when somebody, and I don't like, and I still to this day don't even like people to use it around me. If I do hear people, I walk away, because that's not, I just know me. I know my history enough not to want to be called that.
Right.
But you got a lot of us who would, and it's not only us nowadays.
No.
It ain't no, that's the one thing, but see, that's where I always feel like as black folks, we don't really gatekeep our culture enough for other people not to do or say certain things, because this is where I get off on hip hop,
right?
Because hip hop is giving people the license. I know. I'm giving people the license to say and do whatever, and that in itself is very. That's why I don't sometimes I roll my eyes, because at the end of the day, nothing offends me because of the fact that I know who I am. But if it offends you that somebody else is calling you that, then at the end of the day, why is it that you are still using the word? Why are you still doing certain customs that don't make no damn sense?
You said it a few weeks ago. You keeping the door open, so you unlock the door. You said it a few weeks ago about the same thing. You know, you open the door and you're allowing it to be open, but you want to get back and close the door when it's being directed at you.
But I see what y'all was saying. The difference between the actual word, with the A and with the E. But the saddest thing about it is, though, even though that word, there are two different types of it. I feel like at the end of the day, that was for us. That was for us within our community. I don't like the fact when I'm hearing other people use what was ours and what was kept within our community, because we have always used that. And I'm not trying to and be honest with you, that is just the truth. But nowadays, you got a lot of people who are using it.
Well,
and that in itself, I don't agree with.
You know, I mean, and honestly, in public, and you hear different races.
Even out here in LA, you hear a lot.
Different races referring to each other in that aspect of it, and it's very interesting. I can take that one like, whoa, really?
Yeah,
you know,
I don't either.
But it's not enough to maybe want to dive in it. You know what I mean? But you do hear it. I'm like, wow.
I heard a lot on my job, and at times I'm like, you know what? If this is what y'all are allowed to do and say because this person has given you the license and that person has given you the license, I'm not even offended anymore because you have now showed me the type of person you are because you now use this type of. At the end of the day, it is what it is. It's not ours anymore to you.
Right. I think I would sum it up to more of assimilation. Because everybody's trying to assimilate.
But hey,
but
you got black folks talking about, well, it offends them when somebody else is saying that word. Well, that's the situation still.
Well, and they're gonna.
I mean, Charles, do you agree?
Let me finish my point. So, but yeah, I know I see what you're saying, but it's all about finding a way to assimilate. And it's everybody at this, not everybody, but a huge amount of people, and typically the Gen Z category, they're really trying to find a way to assimilate. And they are finding ways to assimilate around a non-cultural word. At the end of the day, and this is a stretch for me to say that it's acceptable, but here it is. People are so desperate, typically to assimilate, to be a part of something. Okay, but here's the great part about the people of color, I'm speaking of Black people, because we are always on the very forefront of creation. Okay, life started with us, life continues with us. Okay, religion started with us. It continued, not religion, spirituality started with us. It continues the evolvement of that when we get that part of it right. But invention starts with us. We went through and talked about all of the great the Black inventors. Even down to the first surgery, brain surgery. Stoplights, and the list goes on. So now you have a generation of people that are really trying to assimilate to greatness. Okay, so let's look at it as that it's an assimilation to greatness. Okay, it's an assimilation to excellence. Now we can dissect that greatness and we can dissect that excellence because there's a lot of things about it that we don't agree with. But the bigger picture is that there's assimilation going on, and it's maybe a good thing. At the end, it may be a good thing. But we got to go.
Charles, what do you say?
I'm with JP. Everybody's trying to find their place. We've lost so many dynamics that separated us or that they connected us because of the integration of cultures and of traditions. So everybody's trying to find a way to connect to their people, who their people are. And we've gotten away so much from, I only deal with Black people, I only deal with white people. Because you got Black people who go, I won't deal with no Black people. You got white people who go, I'd rather be with the Black people. So, as we try to find that assimilation, that draws us. And like I said, it's not conventional, but it's what they found to bring them together.
Right. And I enjoy the conversations that they're having around it, because they are having a conversation where the generation before is still pointing fingers. Okay. Yeah. But Charles and our generation is still pointing fingers at the end of the day. But anyway, we going in a little bit, then we're going to get out of this spiritual kind of connection mode, and we're going to move to a little bit of politics, then we'll wrap it up. But this is a
clearly
really good
some
look,
of you still think I'm talking about a cosmic figure floating in the sky when I mention God is speaking to Adam. That's not what the story says. Adam's consciousness recognizes something within himself. A realization surfaced that something is missing within. Not a voice from the sky, awareness within the man. Now, if you all were paying attention to what I already said, Adam represents unconscious existence, Eve represents awareness, the fruit represents moral consciousness, so the serpent represents curiosity. It's the internal voice that questions what has already been accepted. It is the impulse that pushes awareness, Eve, to move beyond unconscious existence, Adam. Once awareness, Eve, begins asking questions, unconscious existence, which is Adam, cannot remain the same. That curiosity moves through awareness and eventually it changes the entire state of the man. But let me give you perspective. Riddle me this. Many of you boastfully walk around saying the letter J didn't exist, so Jesus wasn't his name. His name was Yahshua. Meanwhile, you don't use that same reasoning to go back and filter the new text through the original text. You want to know why? Because you didn't get that information from research. You got it from word of mouth and you accepted it. But I bought it so we can look at it together. Looky here. If you read the Hebrew text unchanged, it already tells you how to read the passage. The text literally says, Vayomer Yahweh Elohim Lotov Hayat Adam Lavado. The phrase Vayomer Elohim literally means and God said. In Hebrew storytelling, that's narrative language, guys. It's used to move a story forward. It's not a literal overhead conversation. This translates in English to, and the Lord God said. It is not good for the human to be alone. The word Adam means the human. In the Bible, they translated that word to Adam. But you can see, just like me, the story is describing the human condition before it ever reads like it's talking about a personal character.
You know, I personally, you know, really enjoyed this young man. I have to say young man because he's younger than me, but right, you know, right for it, because he is very, very powerful in his articulation of what and does the research and the homework. Okay. And I had one person, I used to share this with a lot of that. I still share a lot of his good points with a lot of people, you know, on Instagram. I had one person, good friend of mine, said, well, don't share him anymore with me because I don't agree with this brother. I'm like, why? Why don't you agree with it? Why is it that you have gotten this wall between an opportunity to accept the truths that are out there within the ranks of a book that you choose to follow? And you want to accept it as it is, and it's not as it is. And he just explained that to you. You know, I mean, even you know what? I'm gonna get this is gonna put too much of Pandora's box for me to get into that. But I just, you know, I want to encourage you guys. And I use him a lot on our show because I love his truths. You know what I'm saying? I love his truths, and they are the truth behind the truth. Now, you can challenge us on it. You feel free to do it if you want to at the end of the day. But I promise you, if you go back and learn and read it for yourself, not accept what, like the other gentleman said earlier, most of these people that go to cemetery school, which I call it, they come out of the way to find out to fleece people for money. Okay, and then the more you are able to articulate a book that has so many contradictions in it and make a group of people, the more money you're gonna make. You become the professor of sales. Okay, you really are a good salesman when you're able to sell a group of 10,000 people to believe your message and not really even seek the truth behind, you know, the truth behind the truth for themselves. But you have to blame yourself. I have to blame within the culture, because within the culture, we have not necessarily, most have not been taught that. You know, most have grown up, typically in southern regions, most have grown up with a big, huge Bible sitting on the coffee top table. It was an artifact. It was something that we bowed down when we passed by, but never opened it up to the depth of the information that is there to challenge your thought, not to accept, but to challenge your thought, to have a question about what the involvement of that was. It's just like the question of the involvement. Okay, I'm gonna break it down a little bit further. It's just like parents. It's just like when your child, if you did it or didn't. Okay, when your child first came to you and asked you where babies came from, same thing. What did you say? How did you break it down? What definition? Did you make it about you, or did you make it about somebody else? Or did you create it in a fictitious manner in order to reach that, or to try to reach that? The same thing. It's the art of presentation, people. It is. It's a simple art of presentation. But if you choose that presentation as an accepted fact and have not tried it, I'm sorry. You know, I won't challenge it. Some of y'all out there like, oh, wow, he really going there. No, I'm not. I'm just telling you more truth. That's all. Go ahead.
I just think that, people are one-sided, and there are people who don't want to change their worldview. I mean, you're seeing that right now in this country. Yeah. I mean, you see it within politics. You see it with,
next comment, but go ahead.
But it's just the saddest thing to not want to go against the grain and get a different perspective on information that we only know of because somebody else has told us this is what it is. And that in itself is we just said it. Curiosity should be part of human nature.
Right.
But then that's what religion and certain ideologies do. They're supposed to be there to control and to bring you a one-sided perspective, and you should go along to get along. You shouldn't. There used to be a thing back in the day, and it probably still is a nuance to say you should never question God.
Yeah.
Even in the Bible, can you hear us?
You're going in and out. Going in and out. You good now?
Can you hear me now?
You good now? Yep.
Okay, so going back to what I just said, and there used to be a certain nuance where people used to say that you should never question God, even though in the Bible, there were many people who questioned God, and there were no issues. Right. But in somebody else's worldview, you should never question God on situations of death and health and all this other stuff. And I think that's the most craziest thing not to do.
Right.
If Jesus was on the cross questioning why he was on the cross, then why should I not question God?
Well,
but that has been a cultural thing from I don't know. I don't think it was only within the Black church, but in many churches. Yeah. I mean, so that's a situation where I think people need to. It's telling you not to question God. Can you hear us, Charles?
You going in and out again? Yeah, you good now?
Okay, we good. I think you going back to what I just said. If somebody is telling you not to question God, you should back the heck away and go find you another scholar and teacher that's going to teach you what is the necessary steps to be closer to your spirituality, right? Not to just be controlled by one's worldview. Go ahead, Charles. I'm done.
No, I'm with you. I'm thinking that. I tell this to people all the time. I'm not a religious person. I grew up in the church and all, but I still have my values, my moral values, and I tell you, it's the difference between right and wrong, not Christian or not Christian or non-Christian, atheist or whatever. It's a matter of right and wrong. You know what you're supposed to do. You know how to respect other people.
That's right.
You know how not to harm other folks just because you want to harm somebody. There's a right way and a wrong way. And I think that's what separates this country a lot now is we too caught up in the BS when the difference is right and wrong. It's just that simple. It's not whether you're Republican, it ain't whether you're a super liberal, Democrat, or it ain't none of that. It's right and wrong. Just as simple.
Absolutely.
DEI.
And I have to go and this is gonna sound controversial, but this war within Iran, this has now become more in this country for those who are Judeo-Christian and of the evangelical Christian right nationalist approach has now become more of a holy war. And the saddest thing about this situation is that there are children that are getting killed in this country. People who are losing homes, and you over here praising to God the demise of a country that you don't understand, of a culture that you don't understand, nor do they understand what we do over here. But you are praying for somebody else's demise. Right. That I feel like that's a problem right there with me. When it boils down to
you got a problem with
type of religion.
You're mad at Iran for thinking the same thing you're thinking. But you say Iran wants to run their country by religion. They want to have religion lead their principles and their laws. Well, you say you can't do that because you still need to have freedom. Well, you're doing the same thing here. It's just not Islam, it's Christianity. And it's doing the same thing here. You're trying to tell us that this country needs to be run off of religion when it's not. It's not. It's still an experiment, but it was built on the fact of having freedoms. You can still have your religion. You just can't stop somebody else from having theirs. And this is where we get this right or wrong. Yeah, it's not. Absolutely. It's not right. The right way would be to accept me for who I am. We have our differences, but as long as I don't hurt you or infringe on anything, your physical being or anything, you're good. Wrong is saying you can't study your stuff because my stuff is the top stuff, and that's where we're going with, because I'm a Christian, that's the best on the world, so we're gonna kill every Muslim and all this other crap. It's a madhouse, but yeah,
I completely understand. Then we're gonna go into this.
It's an orchestrated narrative to control.
Yep, absolutely.
Of the masses.
Yep, absolutely.
Right. It's simple. In a sports game, you have both teams praying. They're all praying to win. So I guess the one that lost, God didn't hear him. Okay, I'm moving on. I'm gonna leave that right there. God didn't hear him because they lost, right?
Now,
if we're honest about what's going on, we have a madman in the White House who is running roughshod, who is running the biggest, most corrupt criminal grift in American history out of the White House, and you folks want to whistle right past the graveyard of democracy and our public lands and all of these values. We take an oath to the Constitution, and it seems that all of you took an oath to Donald Trump. And so you want to put his name on coins and buildings and park passes. You want to penalize people who cover up this shrine to Donald Trump that our park passes have been turned into. This is shameful. This is a disgrace. I would love to have a serious conversation about public lands, about recreation, about other things where we could do good work together. But pretend everything's just fine right now in the face of this. The madman right now is in Europe driving our friends into the arms of our adversaries. He's doing immeasurable damage to our credibility on the world stage, and you guys are just fine with it. What the hell is wrong here? What the hell is wrong? I'm not going to sit here and pretend everything is just fine for our public lands, for the agencies we depend on, for our democracy, for our credibility, for truth and justice and what's left of integrity. That's a disgrace. I'm not doing any justice to this committee or to the Explore Act or anything else to sit here and pretend everything is just fine and pat ourselves on the back for what we did a year ago. This is wrong. This is not normal, and I'm not going to normalize it. I yield back.
Well, all I can say is that there's how do they say that? There's a world going on around our bubble, and that bubble is the one Donald Trump has built. He's alienated all of our allies. He's embraced all of our adversaries. He's made multi-billion-dollar deals with the Saudis and everybody else. So companies he was supposed to have taken his name off of, but he still owns. He's still milking the public when he stays in Mar-a-Lago because he charges us astronomical fees to stay in his hotel instead of the White House where we paid for him to stay. He goes on trips. His FBI agent and his Homeland Security director are riding around in giant customized pimp planes to go hang out and visit games and stuff at the taxpayers' dollar. But yet we don't have any money for Medicare, Social Security, vaccines, diabetes medicine reduction, none of that. Remember he said when he first came in down the escalator, we're going to win so much, you're going to get tired of winning. Well, damn it, I'm tired, but I ain't seen a win yet. I've been tired.
Make you wish we would have voted for the woman with the silk press funny laugh, and we could.
And the one who told us this was going to happen. It don't take a. Hey, I'm gonna be honest. I'm like Gavin Newsom. I'm not the smartest guy around. I'm no idiot, but I'm not the smartest. And I could see this grift, as old boy said, it's a grift. He started this grift a while back, and they know he's doing it, and they still are not upset with him. But let Joe Biden fall asleep or stumble some words. We gotta get him out of here. He needs to go right now. This dude can't even talk. He kept talking about Obama's a good president because he can what do you say? He could read the teleprompter.
The
He can't even read the teleprompter.
And you got Stephen A. Thunderdome, whatever what you would have called him, with a bit of receding hairline, always talking up.
Man, I don't know. I feel so bad about the country.
You know, and he, you know, the saddest thing about this, hold on, Charles.
You back? You back?
Are we good?
You back now?
We good?
Yep, you back.
Are we good?
Yeah.
Okay, going back to what I said, you know, the saddest thing about this situation is that we didn't have to go down this route.
No.
We didn't have to go down this route. But you know why we went down this route? Because of the fact that you had a bunch of ignorant folks who wanted to believe that a woman couldn't lead.
Yeah.
You wanted to believe that that the progressive way of going about doing things was not the best way, because you're indoctrinating my children to believe other than what I believe.
Uh-huh.
You believe that formal education is not relevant to it. It shouldn't go hand in hand to my spiritual situation.
Uh-huh.
You know what I'm saying? You had a bunch of ignorant ass Americans who cannot even afford to buy meat right now. But then on top of that, they will look you dead in your eye and tell you, well, you know what? At the end of the day, I voted for what was best for me, for you not to have them, for me not to have them. I can't. Wow. If you, I don't want you to have what I have.
Right.
And then they're talking about trying to be a bridge. We're trying to unite as a country now. There is no uniting, because I have to tell people sometimes, when you voted for him, you voted against me anyway.
True.
You voted against my existence. You voted against my marriage. You voted against what I stand for as a human being. So there is no bridge to come across, because you need to you need to understand. There is no bridge to come across, because now what you have voted for. Are we good, Charles? Are we good?
Okay, now you are. Man, it was acting a fool. Yeah.
Charles, can you hear us?
I'm
loving this. Because I'm gonna keep. You know why I'm loving this? Because of the fact that we're speaking some damn truth right now. See, you know what? I always say that the internet acts stupid when there is a situation that when there's some truth that's being said. And at the end of the day, I feel like this: there is no bridge to come across. There's no bridge. You voted for this war. You thought you were voting for America first, but no, you voted for a rich man to get richer and for this country to go into a third world situation. And what I mean by third world is that you voted for corruption.
Yes.
The government is now corrupted. It's now been corroded with corruption. There's always been corruption, but now at the end of the day, there is no three branches anymore, because now those three branches are not useful, because they have given this man anything and everything he wanted. And to be honest with you, what are you going to do about it? What are we going to do about it? That should be the question as an American. What are we going to do about it? Go ahead, Jay. I'm done.
No.
What are we going to do?
Well, no. I'm in agreement with you there. I mean, I like your hypothesis a minute ago. You know, the video we just played, I posted it on my Facebook page and put a nice caption over that, which I was challenging the thought pattern of every political party. And I am still shocked at the amount of people that responded, which I'm glad, because I wanted to know where everybody was, you know, and how even systematically where they're so divided, and these people don't do the research that then if you listen to me at the show, which I encourage y'all to watch, and I'm telling you, don't do research, because see, you repeat regurgitated information that's not true. Okay. Even in your post, you repeat regurgitated information that's not true. That's what somebody else said. Did you take the time to here we go. See, we go back and try to blame the Obama administration. Some of y'all even went back all the way to Clinton. Okay, trying to pull up and creating this cycle. Everybody knows, okay, it is just the truth behind the truth. Economically, America prospered when there was a Democrat in office.
They always do.
Okay. And if you want to go back and check the fact, go back to. But see, y'all want to go back and worry about Monica Lewinsky up under Clinton's desk doing her business. All right, I'm not saying that was right, But at the end of the day, the man had one of the best running economies that there were since then. Now, President Obama came in and surrounded himself with great economic people, because his first goal, if you paid attention to him, his first television thing, he was saying he's putting great economic people around him. Who the first one he brought? Warren Buffett. Okay, and move people forward. All right, but y'all want to say, well, he didn't do this, he didn't do that, he didn't. You focusing on all what he didn't do, and didn't do this, didn't do that. Oh, well, now see, y'all want to blame Trump for get people like that. Yes, he did. He got rid of 3 million people, okay, because they weren't supposed to be here. But he didn't have a woman with a plastic surgeon riding a horse, calling people out on national television. Come on, really? Is that justification to making a statement like that? And then she don't get her ass fired, but she should have been fired from the beginning. The very first commercial should have been fired from that. Put that shit, that stuff, on TV. And when you run around for, I said, what is this woman doing? Okay, this is not justifying people being in the country, but it's the fact of what you were doing to do it. Just because you did not one time hear any Ice Ages tackling, going and people holding kids up, taking people from their families. You didn't hear it may happen once or twice, 2, 3 times.
This is a true fact. Okay, our viewer said the right side collect resources through imperialism. The left spend it on the people. Now, even though that is close to the facts, the problem is the left have no backbone. They have no chutzpah. They look out for people, but they don't have enough to fend off the wolves to take care of the people. They want to be fair to everybody.
Right.
Let's all sing kumbaya, hold hands, and probably kiss after it's over with. That's the thing. But instead of saying, hey, back up, or I'm going to give you an elbow. You're not taking this law away. This is what we're going to do. And they come together as a group and stand tall, but they don't. They have no oomph at all. They're mad because things aren't how you say, aren't legalized or in a proper fashion, but yet you should do something.
You're gonna have. Yeah, well, you become the problem. At the end of the day, when you're not the problem.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You become the problem when you're not the problem at the end of the day. But back to my point, and we can go ahead and wrap it up. Back to my point of the comments that came about. I was shocked at the amount of people that, and I have not put my response out there just yet because I've been carefully kind of thinking about how I'm going to respond to that, all of those comments that were out there. Mm-hmm. I did take it to my personal point, not personal to me, but address some of them personally for some of these things that some of these people said, but I'm just amazed that now it gives me and us here at the Truth where people are, and we are hugely divided for those that are in the political perspective of life. At the end of the day, because it still is all of this point. And the video we just played, just a minute ago, the senator or the congressman, which one of he was, clearly articulated where the source of the problem is and why it's going on. But you still have those, just like we started with the gentleman came down talking about the pastors in cemetery. They preface all agendas and their own ideas, and you tell people just enough to keep them believing in the bullshit. And we got more bullshit followers than we do truth followers. At the end of the day. But go ahead.
Well, my gripe is that it's not only the politicians, because at the end of the day,
no, it ain't all. No, you're right.
But you have a populace of people who don't see the need for. You got people who are just so greedy in their hatred and their misogyny and their homophobia that they don't see the era of what that brings with that type of situation. Mm-hmm. You're not even able to afford life right now. Right. Affordability is so not there anymore.
Right.
And you have people who will sit there and at the end of the day will say, well, the rich should have what they have because they have worked hard
Oh, but you don't work. You don't work hard. You don't work hard though, right?
But see, at the end of the day, you have those who want to believe that the job creators and all this other stuff, those people have favor. But you know what? That's one of the reasons why we don't have what Charles just brought up some time back about universal health care, about affordable education. You know, it's bad enough when you have to pay a high tuition just to go seek higher education, just to go get whatever job that you can have. But then you have some nitwit who will say, well, why should you go get a college degree anyway? You should get into the military. There's a woman now who's crying on social media saying that she was begging her children to go to college, but now they have now been told to go into the Middle East because they decided to go into the military, which is not a bad thing now. Hold on. All right, we're back.
Okay, go ahead.
No, we back. Charles, can you hear me?
Yeah, I heard you. I couldn't
Charles?
See the picture's messed up, but I can hear you. The sound was
okay.
good.
We're still kind of fuzzy, but we're here. But can you hear us now?
Yes.
We apologize to those who are watching this show. We can't help that the tower here is just all over the place. But going back to what I just said, you got a mother on the internet crying about the fact that she was begging her children to go to college, and they didn't want to go to college to be teachers. They felt like college was too expensive, which it is. They thought going to the military was best suited. So now they're both over in the Middle East, and she is crying for the simple fact of them being over there. And it's a sad case right now that unfortunately we are in a situation that has now been, some rich man has already told us that we should be going over there and fighting for somebody else's freedom when he campaigned on America first. And that's why most of these people voted for him in the first place.
Wars. Remember, no more wars. I'm going to stop them all in one day.
No more wars. It was always supposed to be America first. We were supposed to be bringing back manufacturing jobs, and we brought them back all right. And we deporting illegal criminal immigrants. Well, to be honest with you, the truth is being spoken tonight, Charles. It's been spoken. The truth is coming out. And that is why we're doing what we're doing. The truth behind the truth. And the saddest thing is that I cannot blame but only the American people for this. You can only blame yourself for those who decided that this was the best way for this country to go. And politicians they are there for that very reason.
It's so disheartening that we're at this point. But I think my question as we bring this in. So where do we go from here, y'all? I mean, we get to, our job is
stay
to
woke.
Drop some nuggets out there. Where do we go from here?
Stay woke. That's all I can say is stay woke.
Charles, what's your point? Where do we go from here?
It's like Donald said, we stay woke. The thing that I think bothers me the most is people are lazy researchers, and they take in this all crap, word of mouth bull or AI crap or whatever, instead of trying to find out what the truth is. And then we also got those who really don't care. And if 50% of the people that didn't vote in the last election voted, was enough to turn the election the other way.
Wow.
50% of those that didn't vote.
Wow. See, and I know people that didn't vote. I mean, I just look at them. I just look at them.
You just do away your citizenship right there for somebody else, for somebody else's gain. That's what I get from it. You didn't vote, but you not voting. Somebody else did vote for you,
right?
And now you're suffering along. Now I'm suffering along with what you did not decide was best,
right,
for all of us,
right?
Because see, you want what I want. We want to be able to afford things and to go to places and to buy new things and to have money in the bank to one day buy a home.
Right.
But see, we're not able to do those things because you have people who don't vote, people who do not believe in their civic duty.
Right.
Charles, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. People who don't believe in their civic duty, people who don't believe that the system don't work for me, but then you don't want to get in the system to change the system.
Right.
You want to be like Umar Johnson, who likes to live in blue cities and tell people in the South that the system don't work, and what they do and what they don't do is they don't vote.
Yeah.
That's my problem when you listen to pro-blackness that live in blue cities, but you're telling people in not in blue cities, but blue states, but you're telling people in red states not to go vote, and that's crucial for them.
Right.
Because in Arkansas, did y'all see the situation in Arkansas? They ain't got a pot to pee in a door to throw it out, but they voted for somebody who believes that they shouldn't have a pot to pee in and a door to throw it out.
Wow.
Because you have some ignorant nut telling them that the system don't work.
Right.
But they're living out here in LA where they have a voice. They live in New York where they have a voice. They live in places like Vermont where they have a voice. In Philadelphia where they have a voice. But you're telling some ignorant fool or somebody who don't give a damn in the red state who don't have a voice and who too scared to have a voice.
Right.
Where it's crucial to have a voice.
Just
and
think.
That in itself is bad.
Well, just think of this. The worst performing states in the union are Republican led. Worse in education, worse in healthcare, worse in per capita income, household income, the lowest in education, lowest graduation rates are all red states. But we want them to lead us because they know what's best to do. Texas has been a Republican state for 30 years, and they some of the worst conditions yet. I still don't understand how they think they're doing better than everybody else.
And it's so sad that you have those kids are shot up in Uvalde and all. Those people vote for those Republican people, and they did, and they are able to do those things because they have held power for so long, and they don't see the need to change it up.
Right.
You know, they
Tradition.
Had a woman who Jasmine Crockett, who we have talked about multiple times on the show, and you know what? It took willful ignorance not to keep that ball going, because other than that, she said something that they claim was ignorant. She wasn't even talking about them. But to be honest with you, willful ignorance is what keeps you oppressed.
Exactly.
And you're in the position that you're in. Yeah. Texas is gonna always be that state where you're gonna have to deal with, hey, you're on your own, regardless of how how you feel like it's more affordable in that state. But why is it affordable in that state to live there? Because of the fact that what's the minimum wage in Texas?
Too long. I'm scared. The national minimum.
Yeah, I'll be $7 by the hour.
Right.
Just like it is in Alabama, $5 by the hour. I'm just being funny, but it's the truth.
Yeah,
that's the truth. I mean, I hate to say it, but you keep yourself in oppression because you don't see the need. You have a group of people who don't see the need of coming out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I feel you.
But as has been said tonight. Can you hear me?
I can now. Yes.
Can you hear, Charles?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up, guys, because obviously, Big Brother on the internet don't want us to keep bringing great truths to you guys tonight. So decipher it where you can. I'm sure the AI will break segments of the show. And I'll post them so you guys can go back and get the information that was out there that was really said to you. Doing it again.
Yep.
That was said to you tonight. So we encourage you. I don't know where we're going to end up right now. In terms of how things are going to work out with this war and and unity. But I think that I would say that if you have any glimmer of hope for your fellow man, I think it's time to kick in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It can't be about black. It can't be about white. It can't be about Hispanic. It can't be about Asian. It can't be about Indian. It can't be about any of those things. Okay. Because if we continue down this road of being perpetuated into thinking separatism is where we're going to conquer, you're sadly mistaken. Because guess what? The universe doesn't agree with what you're doing. And when the universe starts retaliating, you're not going to really like what's going on. Okay? I'm going to tell you. So you can under-spiritualize it. You can say that he off on some other plane. Okay, I'll be off on another plane because I know the truth behind the truth. And the universe has already indicated. You look at where we are in the States. Half of the state is in snow. Half the United States is in heat. In the middle, they don't know where it's going. Okay? They don't know whether it to be cold or hot, whatever it can be. I'm telling you, the earth is crying out for unity. Okay, it's doing its part, but it is going to send you a very, very, very strong message about you getting yourself together. I should say, getting your shit together. All right, because it will retaliate against you. All right, so we love you guys. Thanks for tuning into what the truth behind the truth. We will be back here next week. Hopefully, without these little glitches that that are going on. But that's all right. The message still cuts out, and it still will be said, and still will be heard. We still love you. We again thank those for tuning in tonight. Thank you for your comments tonight. We really, really appreciate that. Encourage more people to be a part of this platform. And let's just keep it going. Yeah. All right. Love you guys. Have a beautiful rest of the week. See you next week. Thank you. Right. Bye-bye.